Ready to turn up the heat on your conversations? Welcome to Come Talk with Aimee, where we ditch the shame, drop the small talk, and dive headfirst into pleasure, passion, and everything in between. I'm Aimee, your guide, your confidant, and your favorite permission slip. Let's talk. And not just about the weather. Welcome back to Come Talk with Aimee, the show where we don't just talk dirty, we talk deep. Today's guest is the unstoppable Steph Zapata, sexual health pro, anti-colonial powerhouse, and the mastermind behind SLAM, the conference shaking up all the right systems. We're talking impact play, yes, the sting, and the intention behind it, and how Steph is making waves in sexual health and liberation spaces. So buckle up, babes. This one's got bite. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Come Talk with Aimee. We're so excited to have you here. And to introduce our guest for the day, we have Steph Zapata with us. She's a transformative sex educator, somatic impact explorer. Welcome, Steph.
Thanks, Aimee. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk with you.
Yes, excited to dive in as well. So Steph is a well-seasoned New Yorican, award-winning transformative sex educator, professional dirty talker. You guys need to listen to her dirty talk. Somatic impact explorer. Hello. As a career professional, they guide individuals and couples toward finding pleasure and connection beyond societal restraints. Yes. Making room for everyone, especially those disenfranchised by colonial, sex negative, kink shaming society. Hello, hello. I love it. Their approach is both rigorous and compassionate, recognizing that liberation begins with radical self-acceptance and the reclamation of one's whole self. They prioritize pleasure as a radical tool for healing and self-reclamation, viewing it as a pathway to understanding our most genuine selves. Through practices like spanking, flogging, dirty talk, building a daddy, and doming, Steph emphasizes that pleasure can help heal the scars of colonial shame, offer a consensual space to reclaim agency, explore identity, and cultivate a life grounded in fulfillment and joy. Steph champions pleasure as a tool for understanding, loving, and fulfilling our most authentic selves, exploring who we are without the burden of imposing narratives and societal guilt. Through talk, touch, and toys, Steph's work supports learners in experiencing pleasure as a guilt-free, radical act of reawakening oneself. Yes! Welcome, Steph!
Thank you, Aimee. Thanks.
I'm so excited.
Thanks.
Steph, we just learned a little bit about you. Tell us more about Steph. Tell us about Rise with Steph. What is radically intentional sexuality education?
It's my framework and it's my brand name. I first started out under, I think it was Stephanie Speaks Here. That was my LLC. But as I grew in this work as an independent consultant and as I grew as a person within sex ed, I was like, no, this needs something more. It's often hard for me to sit in the impact of my work. But when I was rebranding, I had to do that because I need to know what I'm offering folks. And so when I sat with it and I was listening to what folks were receiving from my work, I realized that a lot of it was really the R and the I. It's the radical and the intentional approach that I take to sex ed, and radical in like the root of things, as Angela Davis teaches us. And that's the sex ed that I offer. It's never superficial. It's never status quo. It's always getting to the root of everything. And part of that includes the root of us. Who are we as people, as beings? That shows up a lot more in the pleasure aspect of the work. That's my brand. Rise with me. And then Rise standing for radically intentional sex education.
Amazing. Like, damn, sitting in your impact. I'm so glad. We are so grateful that you took time to sit with that impact and really define it, because amazing. Nailed it.
Thank you.
I'm curious, because I don't fully know this. What brought you to the world of sexuality education?
The universe. I'm a firm believer in things aligning in divine ways. I never knew that sex education was a job. I didn't know that you could be a sex educator.
Mm.
I didn't know any of that. In college, I was the president of the GSA, and we did lots of like mobilizing activist demonstrations, and that brought attention, right, from organizations that were doing sex education, and they're the ones who brought me in. I think I was like 21, 22 at the time. And they were like, hey, we want you to work with our young people and train our young people. And my literal words were, what? But I am a young person. I didn't understand. And they're like, sex ed training. And I'm like, what are you saying? You want me to talk about sex and get paid for I don't understand. This does not compute. But it was a real thing. It was a real job, folks. It was a real career.
Love it.
But it's not something that I pursued, to be honest with you. I think that this path chose me.
I love that. That's so powerful. When a path does choose you, that means that one, you're intentional about it. You're listening to the universe and the messages that the universe has for you. And you really do have talents and abilities that only you can provide this world. And you've tapped into that, and amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I know that you have a particular interest in kink and dom sub dynamics. Can you delve into that a little bit and how you got involved in kink?
I honestly, I don't know. I wish I had more answers for you, but I don't know. On a personal level, I had always been experimenting with kink. I was doing
Mm,
kinky things, but the identity marker of kink or being a dom, anything like that was terrifying to me because I had such a
mm.
negative association to it. In my mind, there was a lot of control and violence. And I don't want to do those things. I don't want to hurt people.
Yes.
So I shan't use those labels. I'm not going to do it. And it really wasn't until I want to say it was Sex Down South. It was my first Sex Down South years back that I got to be in a kinky space that was liberating and affirming and light expectations. There was no pressure. You have to be an expert. You have to do all of these things. It was just, it's here for you to explore. And I said, oh my goodness, hold on a second. So there are people who do this, but not to harm one another. It's not about
Absolutely.
hurting people. It's not about taking, it's giving. It's all consensual. And that blew my mind. That experience blew my mind. And I think I should be doing this work. I think it's time to bring
Yeah.
the personal things I had kept hidden for all of that shame that I had. It's time to bring it to the forefront. Let's talk about it. Let's be kinky out in public and let's do things and let's have people watch us and yeah, let's just try it. Let's just go where our heart tells us to go. For me, it was into kink and BDSM.
Love that. And I just want to say for the listeners who don't know what Sex Down South is, that is a conference for people who work in the sex space, sex educators and coaches, etc., therapists and whatnot, all encompassing that work in sex education. I love too your approach, and I think the world really needs your approach to dom sub dynamics because the way that you described your own shame with it or that approach around inflicting pain or hurt or using words of dom and sub, I think that that's very common for people to feel that way and to carry that shame. For people who are, ooh, that approach sounds interesting, but it may be a block to them or a block in exploring it out loud with different partners. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Babes, it's not your shame. It's really not. It's not. What usually happens is that as we're growing up, things happen to us and we internalize it and say that this makes me bad or I did something wrong. I allowed this to happen. And then there's shame that comes in. And sometimes it becomes part of our identity. For me, shame has been a part of my identity almost all of my life,
Yes.
which makes no
Welcome
sense
to the
because
shame game.
but like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's such a silly concept.
Yes.
It's such a silly concept to hold shame for circumstances that you had no control over. What are we
Mhm.
talking about? That's so sad because that's a little you. That was a little
Yes.
me that was holding on to that shame, that fear
Yes. The
of
little
being
all of
born.
us.
Yeah, the little one in all of us is still there. As weird as it sounds, the more that we let that little us out to play in the world, the shame kind of gets quieter, it dissipates little
Yes.
by little. My version of playing was quite literally playing with people in public.
I love that. I love public play. And I personally love calling sex play. I know it's a very common word that we use in the community. I like to use it with anyone and everyone on my platform and to really think about let's shift this as play. This is adult play because it really does help in allowing us to break through a lot of those shames and stigmas that we have held on to.
Yeah.
As you said, it's the little us, and let them out to play, let them out to explore for the things that they were told that was no, bad, or disgusting, or whatever the word. Insert your own shame words in there.
What I really love about using the word play too is that it's almost entirely devoid of expectations. We're just
Mm,
playing a game. That's it. So the expectation is what? It's joy, it's curiosity, it's enthusiasm, it's communication. That's it. And so, what if we reframed our perception of sex, our perception of pleasure, so that it was just those things? It was just play. What a world! What a world!
yes. And if you're playing with someone on the playground, consent is a huge thing. Everybody needs to be on board, and that's where
Roles
the
are clearly
communication
defined,
is.
right? We know, like, tag, you're it. And then if you tag me, then I'll be it. We know the
Yes.
flow of things. Yeah.
And if I'm not cool with this, I'm going to tap out.
Need a
Love it.
break, time out. Let's call it. Like, everybody chill. Sure, let's get a water. Yeah. Let's
Yes.
just play.
I love it. Let's talk about a specific form of play that I know you are an expert in. I know this personally because I have enjoyed this from you. Impact play.
Yeah.
What is impact play?
Impact play is essentially we're striking the body somewhere. So there's a literal impact somewhere.
Hmm.
And that we can use our hands, we can use tools, toys, but that is the general definition. Just something hitting the body. There's a feeling, there's a sensation that is being produced from this.
Love that. Love that definition. What are some tips for beginners to impact play?
Number one tip is always that it's not supposed to hurt. It doesn't have to hurt. I know sometimes that's what. But again,
Mm,
remember when I said I came from that shame lens, and in my mind, if we're doing
yes.
impact play, I have to hurt you. This is supposed to hurt. But surprise, it doesn't have to. All these things are defined by the person in the moment, and there's no expectation of it. My number one piece of advice is to ask folks how they want to feel, what sensations do they
Okay.
enjoy, so that you can build a scene around it. You might
Yes.
meet some people who are pain sluts, and they're like, yes, I want marks and I want to bleed, and I love that. But please don't assume that everybody every time wants to be like absolutely beat to bloodiness, because they don't. Sometimes
Yeah.
it is just the somatic experience of impact that heals, that helps to release, that grounds us, that nourishes us in some way, because it is still touch. I think of it as a form of touch therapy.
Absolutely.
A cuddle, that's touch
Yeah.
therapy. That's my first piece of advice is please don't go into this, I need to hurt this person, or I'm going into this with my ego so that I can be the big bad dom who beats everybody's ass, because that's just harm.
Yes, that is harm. And that's not pleasure unless that is what the person who is receiving the impact
Yeah.
wants.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to the communication, the consent, understanding, exploring what is it, how do you want to feel? I loved that question from
I
you.
gotta tell you, Aimee, I think it's so. My brain is my number one enemy. I'll be super honest with everybody. My brain, hater, hater, hater.
Yep.
So when I first started doing impact, so mean up here. So I try to really like create and play from my heart space. That's most of where my work comes from. But again, I'm human. When I first started doing impact play, I could not. So I have ADHD and some other neural shit going on. And I couldn't understand how DOMs were able to just like, remember everything that their bottom wanted. I didn't understand that. I'm not going to bother because I don't have that skill set. This brain is not going to maintain that for a 45-minute session. It's not going to work.
Mhm.
But when I put myself out there, I created an actual assessment sheet. And so when I meet with folks, I'm literally like, okay, here's a photo of a butt. Let's go over your spots. What words do you like? What don't you like? Where do you want to be touched? Where don't you want to be touched? And
Yeah.
it's a genuine assessment. And I thought that everybody did this. I thought
Okay.
every dom had their process of, I want to know everything. I literally make playlists for my bottoms. I'm like, send me the music you love. I want to play with you to this.
A whole sensory experience.
It is. But I didn't realize that it wasn't like that for everybody. I didn't realize that wasn't the industry standard, so to speak. And it wasn't
Mhm.
until, again, I started listening to community. No, but you're not understanding. You're not getting it, Steph. It's not just the impact of the hit, but it's the impact of the
Mm.
environment. It's the impact of the experience. And I was like, oh, so everybody doesn't do this? Okay, got it. Okay, we're learning. We're learning. That's fine.
Yeah, and I have to say, I got to be a, what do you call this?
Impact bottom.
An impact bottom, a volunteer for a demonstration.
Yeah.
And I found out in doing research for this interview that I'm on your website. So Received two different types of impact play from you that day.
Yeah.
I loved that you asked what level
Hmm.
that you like. I thought that that was huge and also unique to ask. And I'm a nurse, so we use the pain scale of 0 to 10.
Yep.
And I noticed that you were using that, which I thought was so brilliant.
Yeah, I want to do the things that are, I want to use systems that are easiest and most accessible. There are lots of folks who create these intricate systems of check-in, and that's lovely for them. My brain would not be able to do that. Again, I'm always in a panic. So I need simple communication, like 1 to 10. Where are
Yeah.
you? How does this feel? Should we bring it down, bring it back up? That is the communication that feels really good.
Again, I don't want to say it's common because, as you mentioned, within the industry, within individuals play, it plays out different. I love that my experience with you, you were constantly checking in with me every couple of packs. How does that feel? Do you want anything to be changed, harder, softer, etc.? I liked the sting. TMI, but
No
I
such
did.
thing. There's no such thing.
That's my pleasure gateway, but you won't
Yeah.
know that unless I tell you that, unless it's communicated. So
Yeah.
huge. Who can enjoy impact play?
Everybody, 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 everybody. There is no such thing as a body that is not worthy of impact or a body that cannot experience impact. If you want to try it, it is for you to try. Now, if you try it and you're like, I don't think I like this, then it's not for you. But
Yeah.
there is nothing preventing anyone from exploring impact outside of societal expectations of conformity. Why are we conforming our pleasure? Like,
That damn bitch gets in there.
like, no, no. Especially for people who tend to identify more as givers,
Mm-hmm.
play can feel really, really good. It can feel really good. And there's no, oh, I can't receive impact play if I am a dom or if I am a top or if I am a man or a trans person. Every single person can explore and play in their pleasure.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. And just because you enjoy receiving doesn't mean you don't also enjoy giving.
All the things. All
Yeah.
the things.
You're a receiver and a giver. Hello.
Listen, I don't believe in any binary system. Not gender, not pleasure, okay? We want it all, we
Yes.
can have it all.
Be expansive. Be
Uh-huh.
expansive. On that note, I'd love for you to tell us about different types of impact instruments and what's unique about each one.
Well, there's a fuck ton of different instruments that folks can use. I always recommend that people start out with paddles. They're usually the easiest to manipulate, to learn how to play with. You really want to get an understanding for what sensation your bottom likes because that's going to help you figure out what tools to use. Paddles tend to be a little bit more thuddy, but they do make some that are stingy. And so if that's what your
Mm.
person likes, you can shop around. I don't have my paddles out, but if I did, I would show you one of my favorites. It's velvet on one side and then it's vegan leather on the other. So it offers the duality of stingy and thuddy, which is really nice. So you can bring somebody up to that stingy sensation, then you
Yeah.
rub with the velvet and you bring them back down. And then one of my other favorite implements are floggers. Floggers.
Ooh, it's in your colors. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, these are custom floggers actually.
Blue and yellow.
They're
Yes.
gorgeous. I love them. And floggers are really nice because they're pretty. They're an aesthetic. They're for me. There's a performance piece to it, and I like to
Mhm.
be watched. So when I'm flogging, I'm very much an artist. This booty is my canvas, and
It's
then
so
that is
beautiful
the
to watch.
yeah. It's so much fun. It's so I actually have a dream of dipping my floggers in paint and actually painting a body with it. But these are too pretty to do that with, so I will have to buy different floggers.
Here, I volunteer.
You definitely do. Absolutely. Let's see, other paddles, you can use your hands. Always number one. Listen, all the toys and tools in the world, fantastic. Love that. Bring them in. But don't forget about the importance of your hands. Like hands carry power and sensuality and wisdom, believe it or not. So when your hands are rubbing on your person or your people, that's energy, that's love. That is something really powerful that you're offering skin to skin. Actually, my hands are my number one tool, is what I'll say. Number one, and then we'll go paddles and then floggers. That's what I'll say.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I love using love. Hello. You mentioned earlier when you have the consultation, you have a map of the bum, you're showing people where are places on the body that are ideal for impact play and places to avoid.
So usually we want to go with meaty, fatty areas. Butt cheeks, great. The thighs, really great. But again, that depends because every body is different. And I mean that literally. Every physical body is different. And it can be different depending on the day. If you're incredibly sore on Sunday, are you going to want to have impact on Monday? Maybe not. That system of
Yeah.
check-in is always going to be relevant. You can do impact any of the meaty areas. Most people assume that impact can only be done on the back of the body, so buttocks, the thighs that are underneath. But actually, you can do impact anywhere. You can flog your partner's chest, which is super sexy. You can flog or spank the inside of their thighs, their stomach, again, depending on what they like and what you both or all of you come to agreement on. But usually we want to avoid places like the kidneys. There's like this area on the back where your kidneys are located. So you want to be super careful of that. When you're spanking folks and they're bent over, especially, you want to be careful. I like to be careful that I'm not impacting their vulva or their genitals because they didn't consent to that. I'm aiming for the booty meat. And so you have to be really careful that you're not accidentally grazing or hitting any other area. In particular with floggers, it takes practice. Sometimes the floggers might wrap around like your person. It's happened before where I've accidentally flogged somebody's thighs, but it's wrapped around the back of the thighs and then the flogger gets to the front. The back of the body has a different sensation or tolerance than the front of the body. These are different areas of skin for many people. So that, that caused harm. And so that was a red light. We need to stop and check in and chill moment. And I say that to normalize the growing in kink and impact play. Yes. I know Aimee calls me like an expert and all this stuff, sure, whatever, but I think that whatever. We're always learning and always becoming. And so should you make a mistake and you hurt somebody, please don't take it as you're a horrible person and you can't ever grow from this, because you can. Maybe you won't grow with that person if they decide, hey, this is the end of our play, and that's totally fine. But it doesn't have to be the end of your growth, itself.
Approach it as a learning experience. What can I take away? And again, I think that taps into those of us who are perfectionists. I'm definitely a recovering perfectionist constantly.
Oh, yeah.
And allowing yourself, I love that, the permission to learn and to grow as you go. And I have to say, I totally had a visual when you talked about impact play on the front. I was like floggers across my chest.
So hot.
And abdomen. Oh my goodness. Even my thighs. Okay. New
And sometimes maybe there's a vibrator somewhere. I don't know.
Yes.
Listen, these are just ideas. I don't know.
New kinks are being unlocked for me. How about you as listeners? Tell us what new kinks are coming up for you. I love it.
What we're here for.
Yes. What other considerations should people take into account when including impact play in their sex lives?
So I think it's important to have these conversations first. Don't assume that just because you've had sex with a person or you're having sex now that you can just start spanking them or slapping the shit out of them. Please don't do that. Always have the conversation first. And my recommendation is to have the conversation before you're having sex, because usually once we start to play, hormones are everywhere. I just want everything. Give me everything. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it is the most genuine or authentic consent in that way. Because with the hormones everywhere, sometimes we get what's like a sex drunk, where we're just, I love everything and I don't care about anything. This is sometimes where our partners are like, do whatever you want to me. Shan't. I shan't. So always having the conversation first. And then if you're the top or if you're the giver, it's really important for you to understand your body and your strength. What feels like a soft hit to you might not feel that way to your bottom. So you are actually attuning to them. They're not attuning to you.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And I know we've touched on this kind of throughout, but just to bring it home, can you speak to choosing kink partners, to look for, discuss, things to avoid?
The number one thing is always going to be safety and celebration of your autonomy. Always. A red flag is any top dom, partner, bottom, it doesn't matter, but any person who seeks to take from you without your consent, or a person who makes you feel like you have to do this. No. What you're looking for is this really sweet spot, this delicate balance of, I want to empower you even as I'm ruining you. I think that is the sweet spot where we can be like, oh, I want to give you so much that you can barely take it, but I'm going to honor your safe words. I'm going to honor your scale. I'm going to honor your body the entire time, because this is about you. This is not about me and what I want for my own, like pride or ego.
Yeah, absolutely. Kink play really is about trust. Yeah. Even if you're just meeting that person a second ago at a party.
Interesting. Isn't that so interesting that we can go to a party and be like, hey, I want you to slap the shit out of me?
Yes.
What? I love that. I feel like kink is part of the human evolution just because of that depth of trust and safety that is in the container. That's not something that you get in every space. You could go
Yes.
to a bar and not experience that safety. You could go to brunch with your friends and not experience that level of safety or trust.
Yes.
But many times when we go into these play spaces, we're like, okay, yeah, let's try some stuff. Let's do it.
Yeah. And also good, credible play party. People have been vetted. People are coming because referrals. There's a vetting process. There's also people there who are safety monitors that you can go to if you feel like something's gone out of line or if you have a question, or who are also looking out for your safety, which I think is huge. A lot of play parties also have substance tolerance
Mhm.
discussion as well. I've learned so much about kink, about impact play. I have learned new areas of impact that I want to experience. And speaking of impact, so you have impacts not just on the body, but on the hearts and minds and in the sexual health movement. So I'd love to shift gears a little bit and talk about the impact that you are making on, I want to say, society at large. So tell us about SLAM. What is it and why did you start this movement?
Yeah, SLAM is the conference that I created. It's my baby. We started in 2020, and I use the language of we, and I want to name that it's just me. I run everything at SLAM.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll have volunteers, but part of the reason that I use the word we is because it doesn't feel like it's an I thing. This is very much a community centered space, community driven. We started in 2020. The pandemic had hit and every conference is shutting down. Myself and other educators are losing job opportunities because this is our money. This is what we do.
Yes.
And I just remember being so disappointed with these big name spaces that I know have the capacity to switch to a virtual summit because, you know, you can just get on Zoom. Boop, look at that. We did it. I just remember being so disappointed. And from that disappointment grew this idea. Why not me? Why not? And then the question was, if you did have a conference, who would you invite? I'm going to invite people that I actually like learning from. I'm going to invite people who are actually transforming sex education. That's what I want. Because in so many conference spaces, it's usually just the same things that's regurgitated. And so much of it
Yes.
centers on shame and stigma filled prevention tactics. And
Mhm.
what I love about SLAM is that we don't do that. We don't play by those rules. You know, everything that we create is from the heart, but it is toward this idea of actual sexual liberation. It is not about, oh, we want to just keep these numbers down because people aren't just numbers. They're whole
Yes.
people. So how do we create sex education that speaks to the whole person while honoring the reproductive history that communities of color have experienced? And that
Yes.
I think is what SLAM is. You know, the foundation is really in honoring the roots, the lives that have been sacrificed, the bodies that have been experimented on, and then growing flowers from that. What do we do with our flowers? Who are we
Yeah.
watering?
I love your curiosity and approach and your creation process. I think it's so beautiful. I just have to say that. I realize we didn't say this at the beginning. What does SLAM stand for?
Sexuality liberators and movers. Although I think I'll be changing that soon. It was just this idea of every time I went to conferences, I felt like I wasn't moved. I felt like
Mm.
my sex education didn't move. Maybe there was one workshop out of a 2-3 day experience that moved me. But
Yeah.
see, that's why I use the word liberators, because like we're moving the thing, we're doing the thing. It has to be a tangible, physical, like something's changing.
Yes.
And so that is what SLAM represents.
I love that. Can you speak to your decolonial framework and its impact on how you approach sex education?
Sure. I like to use the word anti-colonial over
Mm.
decolonial. And part of the reason is because a lot of the discourse on decolonization is just that. It's just discourse.
Mm.
And I think in order to actually decolonize something, we got to go further. Something's got to change. We can't just stay in the headspace. And when I use the language of anti-colonial, for me, that feels like, okay, we're moving away from this thing and towards something better. So it becomes less about undoing the harm of colonialism and it's more about reimagining sex, education, pleasure outside of colonialism, completely free of it, in fact. For me, it's been a really personal process because as a person who is Puerto Rican, like my family comes from the island, and that island remains a colony right now.
Mm.
And it's going
Right.
through continued colonialism that people want to call gentrification, and sure, that is a part of it, but the important part is that it's still a colony, right? We don't have sovereignty. We barely
Yeah.
have light. Just a couple of days ago, there was no light. My grandmother's house, no power. People who have
And
medication. What happened?
call
So
it what it is.
yeah,
Don't put colored rose glasses on it
yeah.
because that only feeds into a colonial perspective, right? Like, yeah.
And the biggest tool in colonialism is the experience of shame. And
Mm,
this is how I brought it into sex education, because when you start to understand the history of your people and how they used to live and how they used to, thrive prior to, Christopher Columbus. Oh my goodness. So what else is possible? What's possible then? It is heartbreaking to learn your history and to understand the binary genders, the sexual enslavement that was experienced by your ancestors. And then you look at the sex education and you think to yourself, how much of this is actually fueled by the same rhetoric that Christopher Columbus came over with, that there are only two genders, that sex should only be for
absolutely.
procreation, that women and girls exist to please men and boys.
Yeah.
So much of sex education is still operating from that place of shame. Because when you can
Yeah.
come into a land and you look at the people and you say, oh, you're terrible people. What are you doing? You should be ashamed of yourselves for living this way. All you do is lay out on the beach in the sun. This is not productive. You just have sex with whoever you want. Unproductive. You have to be married. You have to be man and woman. For me, I just came to this point where I was like, why am I teaching from a colonial perspective?
Mhm.
This is hurting me, Aimee. Like, it hurt
Yes.
me. And I think that's what happens to a lot of educators, is that we're forced to provide sex education that doesn't feel in alignment with our true values. And I gave myself the opportunity to just reimagine outside of that. Like, what would it look like if my sex education didn't throw data at young people to say, hey, you're all disgusting and promiscuous? And it's been life changing. It's just been life changing.
This is a whole movement. It's so freeing. There's so much freedom. And as you were talking, I've lived in India. My daughter's half Indian, and the temples there, which are very, very old. We know that in India, they came up with the Kama Sutra. On the temples, there's people having orgies.
Yeah.
There's all of this, women and women, men and men. And it's really beautiful to see that. It's there, it's out in the open, that it's part of the history.
Yeah.
And having that said, women in India right now, currently, they wear the dupattas where it's have to cover up your breasts for the male gaze. And there's a lot of shame associated with sex and being open to discuss that as well. So
I think it would be so interesting if somebody conducted a study
Mhm.
in communities of color as conservative idea of what pleasure and sex are and who is allowed to have it rise. What else is rising? Is it the number of tourists? Is it the number of Europeans? Is it the number of religious places that are bringing in these different beliefs? As you just said, that the temples over there were celebrating these things.
yes,
And so it's so interesting because in Puerto Rico, we see the same thing. There's been an increase in femicide for years. And now there is an increase in anti LGBTQ policies being pushed.
Yep.
And what's also increasing in Puerto Rico? White people.
Mm.
There's no disconnect. And what I appreciate about my work is that I try to weave all of these really hard truths into the conversation, and not in a way of, you're a horrible person, but look, we're all trapped here. Like,
Yes.
help.
Your approach is just so key and beautiful to moving this work forward. Again, as we talked about earlier, this is a calling for you, and that's just very clear in the approach that you take. And I think it resonates with a lot of people. And for the people that it doesn't resonate with, they need to sit with that.
That's okay. I mean, early on, I think I forgot to say this, but the Slam conference, we only hire BIPOC speakers. And so our
Mhm.
lineup is always BIPOC educators. And early on, I got a lot of hate for that. White folks were pissed, and they were calling me a racist, and they said all these horrible things. And there was this moment where I was like, dude, am I actually horrible? Wait, am I the problem? Is it me? And then you come to this place where but look at the people who are upset with you. What are their
Right.
values? What are they upset about? That I'm censoring BIPOC voices. That doesn't actually define me, right? Their anger, their disdain about that type of framework, that's a you thing, babe. You got to figure out why you feel that way.
Yeah. Absolutely. So huge. And again, I love your curiosity. It's so key. Always be curious. You have an upcoming SLAM conference. Can you tell us about it? The title, correct me if I'm wrong, Sex Ed versus Project 2025.
That is correct. I think it's pretty obvious that the amount of hate that's coming through in policies is just increasing. And that's the reality of it. And it is increasing for immigrant communities, for trans communities. It's increasing for women who have their right to their bodily autonomy threatened, to folks that are married and their last name might not match the voter register. There's a lot of shit that is going on in the political sphere that I think if we look at sex ed as an expansive topic, we can actually address these things. And so
Yeah.
that's why the conference is Sex Ed versus Project 2025, because sex ed is bigger than just put this condom on, don't get pregnant, that's it. Sex ed is a lot bigger than that. It's a whole person framework for development. And Project 2025 seeks to regress our society. And the question for me was, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do, Steph? Because this is a real threat. And I think it was really scary to do this because historically SLAM is a virtual conference, but this is our first in-person thing. We'll still have the hybrid opportunity, so folks who are not in New York or they can't travel, they can participate online. I really wanted to create a space where I brought in folks who have lived the experience of being vilified by by anti-sex education, vilified by the media. And then what do we do with that? What do we do with it? What's happening in the schools? What can we reimagine and recreate? Because I think a big part of this is like, what now? The world is on fire. What are we going to do about it? And so that's the framework that I approach SLAM with. We have 3 panels. There's, I think, 3 panelists on each one. It's what's happening with sex ed in classrooms, what's happening politically, and then what do we do about it? So people can get their information and then they can get their action steps so that we can actually challenge what's happening. Because I know that this is scary, but I don't want that fear to keep us frozen or stuck in, I'm not going to do anything. I want to create a space where we can experience the grief and the fear and then almost alchemize it. Turn that into something powerful, turn it into something productive, and not white supremacist definition of productive. Inspiration almost. I don't know, Aimee, something like that.
I have to say, I got chills when you used the word the way you described that and alchemize it, like hello, hell to the yes. This is going to be amazing. So, who do you see attending SLAM? When is it? We'll definitely in the show notes put information about where people can get more information about SLAM, about Steph, about the wonderful work that you do. Go ahead and tell us now.
The conference is for anyone. You don't have to be a sex educator or a clinician to attend. It's literally for anyone. If you have an identity that's been under attack and you need community, you need space, come through. We got you. If you teach a curriculum that has been banned, come through. We got you. If you are trying to change sex ed, but you're up against red tape and you're losing funding constantly, come through. We got you. There's no expectation of any degrees. You don't have to have 30 years in the field. It is community centered because I want this to be a space for everybody. As long as you are committed to unlearning and then reimagining, SLAM has space for you. And so the event will be taking place on June 26th. And I think it's like a 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in New York City.
Amazing. And like you said, there's going to be a hybrid option for people who aren't able to attend in person.
Yeah, that piece, it's always really important for me to do my best to keep things accessible, whether hybrid or just in terms of like how I tier the pricing options. Community accessibility is a really big thing for me.
Amazing. Steph, I have loved talking to you. We still have a few more minutes together. We are wrapping things up. It is Masturbation May.
Yum.
So, we got to highlight that. And I am wondering if you can make a link to us for what we've been talking about. How does impact play and kink and masturbation go hand in hand?
Remember I talked about where there was a vibrator? I say that jokingly, but also that's one of my favorite things to do because I do think that self-pleasure is such an important and healing piece. And so for me, I always like to encourage my partners to play with themselves while I'm impacting them. It's almost like a threesome. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so yummy. And I think that impact play can offer the insight to your own arousal that might lead you to self-explore. It might lead you to explore somebody else. It is just something to inspire you. Get curious about what you enjoy. Get curious about what really lights you up. And then when you feel your body starting to respond, go fucking get it.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so now we're going to come to completion. So these are questions I ask all of my guests right now, a little rapid fire round. but questions that I feel like I want to hear the answers to
Do it.
from a lot of different people.
Do
All
it.
right. So, how do we close the orgasm gap?
First, we have to acknowledge that it's there. And part of that
Mm,
means we have to be honest. In particular, for folks with vulvas, it is okay, it is necessary, it's honest to name when you aren't getting what you need.
yes.
So many folks with vulvas do not orgasm from just penetration, and yet we kind of sit in it and we say, okay, this is good enough, I guess, right? They're getting what they need. Yeah, babe, but what about you, right? And so I don't want the closing of the orgasm gap to just be one person's or one identity's responsibility. It's an everybody thing. It's an
Yes.
everybody thing, because when you start to believe that you're actually worthy of these mind blowing, or I mean, like you could see colors sometimes with how hard you come. Did you know that? Why am I sitting on the rings of Saturn right now? How did that happen? It's pleasure. And so I really want folks to understand that it's possible to have these incredibly heightened, whether they're orgasms or pleasure-based experiences. And when you know that it's possible for you, then you move into that. And sometimes it does require you saying, that feels nice, but you know what would make it even better? If you rub my clit. A little bit of pressure on my clit would
Yes.
make me come so hard for you. Just be honest.
And that communication piece is so hot for everyone because hopefully you're with a partner that does want to please you
Absolutely.
and you're the best roadmap to
Yes.
give them.
Yes. And even if we're not, right? Because sometimes we don't know all the things that our body likes, but I want folks to think about the trust piece. Do you trust the
Mm,
person that you're playing with enough to allow the exploration of pleasure? It doesn't mean
yeah.
that you have to have the answers. It can sometimes just be, actually, I don't know what the best technique for my clit is. Let's try different things. Let's pull up an article. Let's see. And let's try
Yeah.
number 1 through 5. Fuck it, right? If there's
Yes.
trust, then play in that.
I love it. I love it. Question number 2, how do you become a receiver of pleasure?
I think that for a lot of us, there is a worthiness aspect to it. Am I
Mm,
worthy of pleasure? Shame piece there that keeps a lot of us from actually going towards pleasure. And we sometimes stop at, this is all right. This is pretty good, right? But again, you could be
mm.
on the rings of Saturn. You could be on the rings of Saturn watching a movie.
Yes, we want the rings of Saturn for you guys. Let your partners take you there.
Toys, yourself, whatever. But
Yes.
just explore the playground that is your body, because that's what it is.
Mhm.
It's a playground, and you deserve to have fun there.
All right, question number 3. What's your ultimate communication advice?
You don't try to talk like somebody else. Don't try to perform. And I know that is super generic, basic bitch advice, but it's also true. I can only offer you what I've tried and tested, and that is the piece. The authenticity is the piece. And so even if you are struggling to communicate, just say that. I am
Yeah.
struggling to communicate. Can you hold space for me while I figure out the language? Just say the
Yes.
thing.
I love that. Amazing. Amazing. Question number 4, what has helped you unlock shame around sex?
Honestly, I hate colonizers, and so that's a really big motivator for me. Reclaiming my pleasure is a deeply personal thing. In particular, as somebody who's so justice centered, I'm like, yeah, fuck you, colonizers. I'm in my non-binary body and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
But it's different for everybody. In my case, I wanted to just imagine what it would feel like to be at home in my body, to be at home in my pleasure and in receiving that. And it's not an easy process. It's icky. You might cry.
Yeah.
But it's worth it, because that piece of seeing yourself as your home is so, it's life changing. It really is. To see yourself as your own home is life changing. And part of that is releasing the shame and knowing that it's not yours, whether it comes from colonizers or trauma. It's not yours. It's not yours, and you can let that go.
Yes. Oh my God, you are your own home.
Yeah,
Come home to yourself
yeah,
while you're coming.
yeah. I do that all the time.
Yes. All right. Any last advice that you have for our listeners, Steph?
Don't take things so seriously, and I mean that in terms of pressure. Don't
Mm-hmm.
put so much pressure on yourself to get it right, to get from A to Z in a certain amount of time, to become an expert. Take it as play. Take it as, we're just going to play laser tag, And so I might trip and fall, I might win, I might lose. The experience is what we're here for. Don't put so much pressure on like the ideal outcome. Try to be as present as you can in the experience.
Amazing. Love it. Hey, thank you so much for being here. This has been golden. I'm so excited for people who are listening in to hear your words, to hear your advice. For our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in to Come Talk with Aimee today. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you have learned from Steph. What new kinks?
Yeah.
I shared my new kink that has been unlocked. I want to hear from you. What new kink and what have you taken away? Steph, I know you have another event coming up at Pleasure Lab. What is it? What will people learn? Where can people get tickets?
Yeah, so the Pleasure Lab is exactly what it sounds like. It is an opportunity to explore and experiment with the things that light you up. Myself and Dakota created it because we don't feel like there is a lot of opportunities for people to explore pleasure in community. It's almost like you're supposed to already know what you like. And if you want to learn about it, you got to watch shitty porn or something. So we created a space with workshops, games, prizes, all that good stuff so that folks can invite themselves to explore what they like, learn some dirty talk tricks, learn about pussy worship, and don't feel like you have to get it right. We're just experimenting. It's just try it on. That's it.
Oh my goodness. Worship a pussy today and every day.
And every day.
Amazing. And where can people go to find out about this event?
You can check out our Instagram. So I'm on Instagram, RiseWSteph, and then Dakota's Instagram is Get Real with Dakota.
Awesome. And in the show notes, we'll definitely have Steph's Instagram as well. Amazing. Definitely subscribe so that you can hear more of this goodness. Check out Slam. We'll have that in the show notes. And final words, remember to masturbate, lubricate, and get ate. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Ooh, Steph Zapata did not come to play. Unless it's impact play, in which case, yes, please. If you're feeling fired up, pass this episode to someone who's ready to leave their mark in bed and in the world. And hey, don't ghost me. Rate, review, and subscribe to Come Talk with Aimee so you never miss a juicy drop. Catch you next time. Keep it bold, keep it bad, and keep it consensual. As always, please come again, and come again.